gates of Camino.
Breaking news in the manslaughter case against Alec Baldwin. A judge has thrown out all charges against the actor. Earlier this afternoon, the New Mexico judge dismissed the case of the accidental shooting that killed a cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust. It followed a motion of alleged misconduct by police and prosecutors. They were accused of withholding evidence from the defense, and the case cannot be filed again. Baldwin cried and embraced his attorneys when the decision was announced.
Per State versus Lemire, where discovery violations inject needless delay into the proceedings, courts may impose meaningful sanctions to effectuate their inherent power and promote efficient judicial administration. The state's discovery violation has injected a needless, incurable delay into the instant jury trial. Dismissal with prejudice is warranted to ensure the integrity of the judicial system and the efficient administration of justice. Your motion to dismiss with prejudice is granted.
What's cracking?
Nothing. You know what I was going to tell you is I watched Monsieur Spade.
Oh yeah,
Finally, yeah, I watched it.
Yeah.
I was pretty good. I think you'll like it.
All right, yeah. You know what? It's pulled up in my queue. It's coming up for me to watch. I definitely still on my radar. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, it was like I think it was like 6 episodes or something like that. It was pretty easy to get through though.
Okay, moved well. Gotta have been better
it was
than Marlo.
good. Again, kind of like Joe said, when it came to the accent, it was a little bit rough. But besides that, I was like, oh, this is fine.
And it's gotta have been better than Marlo.
And there were no aliens in this one too. So I was on board.
Yeah. Hey man, the little things, you know, speaking of that, speaking of noir, actually, what's his face was up here, Eddie Muller from TCM.
Oh, Get Out.
Yeah. I went and saw In a Lonely Place. I saw it there was like a little mini festival up here. And
that's pretty cool.
It was cool. Yeah. He hosted like 6 movies. There was like 6 movies that they were playing at the Hollywood Theater. And so I think the most popular one was In a Lonely Place. And he was signing books and everything. I didn't buy one, but they left one there for there's like a video store that is part of the theater.
Okay.
So they let you check the books out. So I just checked a copy of his book out that he signed. So it's like the same thing.
Yeah, fuck it.
I don't need a big ass book.
Save your money, right?
No, exactly. You know, it was funny.
I'm a sucker for that shit, though. I'm the first one to be like, I want the signed book.
He was kind of like in a playfully way. He was kind of shading some of he didn't say anybody specifically, but he was kind of like, what did he say? Like he kind of shaded Mankiewicz. He was like,
yes.
Yeah, he was like,
yes.
because some of us really know about her, something like that. It was a little shady. It was cool, a little bitchy, a little cunty. I liked it. I was there for it for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love that. That's fucking good. That's good shit.
That was good. Yeah. No. So fucking Rust, man.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about that, where it's kind of case closed, but what's bugging me about it is, when the movie's going to come out, and it'll probably do well in that like Twilight Zone sort of way.
Think so you think it'll do
just for the morbid reason
like
alone? People are going to wait for that scene of him pointing the gun, thinking if it's going to be in the movie or not. All that kind of shit. It happens. And
for sure.
So I think it'll do well for that, but I just don't know why the one girl has to go to jail, and then him with Baldwin, the charges are dropped, and it's like, that's that. I mean, we talked about it as far as like liability goes, but goddamn, that girl's, probably should be let out.
I mean,
not that she's not a moron. I'm not defending anyone. I'm just saying.
That age. You've been that age. I've been that age.
Mm-hmm.
I remember not taking every single part of a job I had at that age seriously. So I think there's that. I think you can't get away from that. But I think even more than that, like there were certain things I think that you don't really have to be that old or that seasoned to know, like you don't allow live rounds in, and they were able to prove that she, wasn't checking her shit. I think, it's funny. I had an interview for a job. And they were like, there was like a level of confidentiality was one of the questions, and it was like, tell us about, how your thoughts on confidentiality, keeping client confidentiality, things like that. And, I said to them, I do believe that there are certain fuck ups, basically certain mistakes that, depending on what it is, it can definitely warrant you getting fired on the first time. It depends on what it is,
Depends what it is. Yeah.
depends on what it is. And I mean, this is a pretty big one. and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I think if somebody was wounded, if then maybe there could be like, well, she
Yeah.
was,
Yeah. I get you there.
but the loss of life, it's like somebody's got to pay for something, I feel like. And I was reading, I don't know if it was a part of the case officially, but there was a guy who, I guess he wasn't, there's some armorer who gave a like any jagoff that goes, it's like, oh, they offered it to me and I said no,
Yeah.
that kind of angle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe they did, I'm sure they did. And that
Right.
this guy
Right.
said, and he said that what freaked him out, why he said no, was that like they were really rushing and that they wanted to fit like what he would have said would have taken 5 weeks of prep into like 5 days. And they
Jesus.
really were like, like really pushing for really hard cuts of corners. And he
Who
said
was
that
making those cuts of corner? Who was cutting those corners though?
so that's the other thing. That's the other thing, right? Is who's making those cuts? Who?
Yeah, it's not the
at the very
armorer's
least,
job to be like, let's hurry up, guys.
well, I think it's more like, well, yeah, exactly. It speaks to then why didn't you listen to the armorer that gave you, a better, more safe, kind of like, in other words, yeah, like sure, somebody should have gone down too, and it could have been Baldwin because he's a producer. Very unique
Yeah, I was
situation.
talking
Very
to
unique situation.
it is a unique one because I was talking to someone about it and I was just kind of saying it in passing and they're a stunt guy and we were just and I was bringing it up and without even just blinking, just right away he was like, Baldwin should be in fucking jail. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even get into it or anything. I'm like, oh, you think? He's like, yeah, someone's dead, he pulled the trigger, he's the
Tell
producer,
us
he
what
should
you
be in
really
jail.
think.
I was like, oh god damn. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
that like I said, in a movie, it's an accident. It's hard to say you're in jail and you're like, I get it, someone's dead, but it's such a weird debate,
Yeah, it is totally.
But how can
I
she
see
rot
that,
when there were other people? And she kind of feels like the one who had to take the fall for everybody.
Somebody had to. Well, and I think this is just my opinion. It's my opinion is not everybody's, but I think that Baldwin had a certain expectation of professionalism that if he was handed a gun, that he should have been able to expect that gun was checked. That's where I don't know if that's rooted in any law anywhere. I'm not saying, that's just my opinion.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. But then again,
I don't.
You could take that back to like, but you didn't hire the right person for professionalism.
Correct.
You didn't get that. And you were still the producer. It's like, which I'm sure there's like 20 producers, but
And one of I think that, I don't know if it was the same guy that said, oh, they came to me, but people were weighing in obviously. And some people were saying, yeah, exactly that like that Baldwin should have, I guess it also had to do with who handed him the gun. Like, I don't think she handed him. That's what it was.
No, it was the assistant director, right?
It was the AD. Yeah, it was like the second AD had handed him the gun. And somebody, was saying kind of in that same hard line, was saying, oh, Baldwin shouldn't have just refused that gun. It should not have come from anybody but the armorer. So, I mean, maybe I could see that too, for sure. But then I don't know. It's almost like, okay, is Baldwin supposed to be aware as a producer of those? Because that's to me something that like an average actor may not know, that even an A-list actor may not necessarily know that. That's like a real specific rule that, but if you're a producer and the actor and you've been doing it for so long, yeah, you probably should have known that. Like I could see somebody expecting that if Baldwin should have known, whoa, where's the girl with the funky hair, where's the little,
right now, exactly right.
And
where is she at? Like I told you before, in my life I've done probably about 2 or 3 shoots that had guns involved.
A gun, yeah, like a real, like real looking gun,
or an actual real gun with blanks, an actual real gun though. But they shoot blanks, and we had them with blanks. And when I was younger, and you know me, I'm not the most. I was probably smoking weed while we did it and everything. Like who knows? But we were so crazy careful with each other. Sure. I mean, just how they were. I mean, the rule was never point the gun at the lens. Always keep the gun pointed to the ground. We're all in our 20s too, but it was just how we were just so. We just weren't idiots with it. We knew someone was going to die if we pointed it wrong, and I just don't know how. Like they just. I don't know how that fuck up could have happened. I hear about these accidents all the time, from Twilight Zone to Midnight Rider. I mean, shit happens. We know that, but this is a fucked up one.
Well, and I think that it goes down to, or it comes down to, that at least in court they were able to determine, or they were able to convict her that I didn't see where it said that I don't know that they convicted her of being the one that is where the live ammo came in from. I couldn't really tell.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Did you read anything of how they convict her, and then it was dropped on him?
Oh, so it was dropped for him because of not necessarily like a technicality, but kind of where the prosecution withheld a piece of evidence that I don't know if it could or couldn't have been like beneficial to Baldwin, but it like they withheld it with the intent of like helping them and hurting his case. So that happened. So Baldwin's case I was able to prove that the prosecution withheld something. And then I think they said that there was a prosecutor that was appointed who at a certain point, she quit the case. This is, again, she's for the prosecution. She quits the case.
No, man.
And then she decides to become a witness to the case, a witness for the prosecution. So it would be like if you're being, tried for murder, and the person that's been appointed to trying you says, you know what, I quit this case so that I can actually testify against you. And actually, now that I've learned stuff about you as a prosecutor, I'm going to, try to be a witness now. And I guess the judge told this chick, she is, she's a prosecutor, but she resigned from this Baldwin case. That they told her, you don't have to do this. When you're like, you don't have to do that. It was like that. Like they basically told her, you don't really need to do that. And she was like, no, until she insisted. So it made it look like the prosecution was like doing it with an axe to grind, or like with prejudice or something. And so because of that, Baldwin's side, and you got to remember, I mean, if you've ever been in you ever had to hire a lawyer or something, that's kind of what you pay them for, is to constantly petition the judge. Hey, can we throw this case out? Hey, can we throw this case out? Hey, can we throw this case out?
Right.
That's how that works. Like a good defense attorney.
Yeah, I'm sure
like
his lawyer
almost every day being like, can we throw this out? And that's how that works, And so they were finally able to find something that showed the prosecution was acting out of malice and was withholding evidence. So you got those things going, and you got a celebrity like Baldwin whose lawyer is constantly looking to get the case dismissed. Now, young girl, the young lady, obviously didn't have the kind of attorneys that Baldwin
feels
had,
like if that happened, she should be out now.
Well, but she, I think, has more again, I allegedly, don't sue me.
I know. Yeah.
The way I read it, though, was because she was the designated armorer and I kind of agree. That's just me personally. I think that even if you're a producer, and especially if you're a producer and an actor, you got a lot going on in your head. I really think that you but mostly as an actor, even more than as a producer, that does complicate it. But I think as an actor should be able to expect that when they're handed a prop gun, then it's a real prop, like that's like a story from the movies, like setting somebody up like
really
that.
Is. It's tough. It's just so tough to say. It's like, yeah, I just think she was the one who had to take the fall, because it's still, how many people were involved, how many people touched it again. I agree with you. When you're an actor and someone hands you a gun and you pull the trigger, it's like, how the fuck is that his fault? But again, why he's still the producer though, and how much of a producer he was in it, how much hands-on he was with it is a huge part of it too. Again, I just don't think, wrongful death, definitely, but to go to, I don't know. You should go to work. I know someone's dead, so it's easier said than done here. But like, you're working, you shouldn't go to prison for fucking up. Well, and it's like, if you're at another job and someone died on the job because you're building you're making a build, you're whatever, you're working on something big or whatever, and somebody dies, it's like, you shouldn't go to jail, even though someone has to pay out and there's a lot of shit involved. Yeah. I don't know. It's so tough. It's just so tough.
What I think, I'll just say it. I'll use the example of cops. Like, cops get the qualified immunity. I know being a cop, I would never compare being a cop to being like a film director or being an actor even, obviously, but like cops, they put the uniform on with the expectation that they can conduct themselves in a way that if something goes awry, the government's got their back. They're immune from a certain level of prosecution. And I just think that, God, even since the Rust thing has happened, I can't tell you how many movies I've seen that I know for a fact had to have been filmed after Rust, where the fucking gun is pointed right at the camera. There are ways you film it. You don't let anybody behind the camera. The cinematographer, I don't know, comes out from behind the camera, perhaps when your star is aiming the barrel of the gun directly at the lens. You just don't have any. I don't know how that, but it's like, I don't think that an actor should have to like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, this feels like a live load, because they're an
definitely.
actor,
But he also said some bullshit like when his one interview, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't pull the trigger; it went off." And now it's like he did pull it. It's like you're a little full of shit too. It's hard to like judge you.
It's like dealing with a child. Yeah, like when a child is like, "I didn't do it. I didn't do it."
Yeah, exactly.
Like 1, 2, 3, not it. It felt like 1, 2, 3, not it. It felt like, wait a minute, whoa. Okay, dude, calm down. No one's saying yet that you're going to jail, but now you're trying to get us to believe that you didn't pull the. Wait a minute, no, slow. It's like, dude, calm down, because now you look weird saying I didn't pull the trigger.
Because even when it happened, I didn't think that's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh, shit happens. I feel bad for Baldwin. But then when I saw his interview, I was like, Jesus, dude, it sounds like you really,
That made it weird. And it was very like the lady doth protest too much. It was too far. It was too far of a suspension of disbelief. And we're active moviegoers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I can suspend my disbelief, but what you're not going to do is tell me that you didn't pull the trigger. It's like, dude, it's okay. You were supposed to pull the trigger because that was part of the scene. But what you're not going to do is say you didn't pull it and somehow the bullet fired off on its own. No. You didn't have to know that it had a live bullet. Right. But then when you make it like that, Alec, you go too far and you ask too much of us.
And to defend that girl more, if John Landis didn't have to go to fucking jail, I don't know how anybody should go to jail.
Well, there you go.
Like, that was really breaking some laws there. Wow. And paying these children under the table, keeping them. I mean, this is just fucking unbelievable. And again, I'm not saying he should have went to jail, but that was probably the worst, next to like maybe DeMille back in the silent film era when he was killing everybody who worked with him. But people drop, and it's just like, it's so fucked up. But I think, again, I just,
money goes to show you it's the money and who can afford the better lawyer, and
that's
Landis
what's crazy.
Landis is by that point he was already John Landis, so he had the studio behind him, he had his own money behind him,
I'm reading this book right now on Orson Welles, and he was talking about the day that he got I don't know if he got arraigned or whatever, was one of the days he had to appear in court, like he was literally being booked on like these manslaughter charges. He's calling Orson Welles on the phone. Because when John Landis was getting booked, he was like some type of executive for a project Orson Welles was on, and Orson Welles hated John Landis. He was like, "Oh, he's a little prick who thinks he knows everything." And he said he was calling Orson Welles shit talking about this movie on the day he was supposed to like appear in court and stuff, and Orson Welles is going off about him and everything, and it's just like, it's funny.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. Yeah, because he's still around, right? He's still alive. He's still alive.
He's a prominent, figure, especially in the horror scene. People love him, and he has made the classics with Animal House, Blues Brothers. I mean, you can't deny American Werewolf.
And then what happened with Twilight Zone with poor Vic Morrow, that didn't end his career. He kept going, like he had other hits after that.
I mean, it sidelined them a little bit, I guess, but like, and he had to do some crappy movies like, Oscar or whatever.
The one with Stallone?
Stallone and shit. Yeah, he did do some crappy movies, but I mean, he survived. He survived, and he kept working.
The worst project of all that he ever gave us was his son. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God, that's right. Yeah, see. But I mean, every time I think of Russ, I think of Twilight Zone, the movie,
for sure.
And
for sure.
Yeah. And it's just like, that is the worst example, like in modern era of like, just not
for sure.
And I don't know. It's a tough one to say. I wanted to talk about it more.
I heard, especially when it happened, I heard or read that on top of all of the stuff that obviously led to this with the bullets and the like, just, you know, the negligence, I would say. I think they said that they were keeping cast and crew, like they were being lodged, you know, in other words, housed. They were,
Yeah.
the housing was like 2 hour drive away, and that, you know, you do that obviously to accomplish the huge open vastness, you know what I mean? You got to have base camp or wherever the you know,
Yeah.
wherever the residences are, wherever they're going to sleep, is it had to be super far away. So it was like they had to drive a couple extra hours each day going each way, and that maybe like made you know, her and the crew tired and stuff like that. And I've
And you
heard
know,
of
it
that
also
before,
goes
you know.
down to where producers, a lot of times actors who are producers as
Mhm.
well, but like people just
Yeah.
don't, I don't care how long you've been around it. People just don't know how hard and how shitty it is for the crew sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
like when you're an actual, like you're a
Absolutely.
grip or a gaff. I mean, you're carrying shit. I mean, you're a fucking blue collar
Mhm.
worker and you're around all these artists and everything who just take you for granted. And it's like, yeah, they get fucking pissed off. And in Armor, she's one of them, you know?
Mhm.
So it's like you just don't know where their mentality is at that time, too, what
Yeah.
the working conditions were, how they were being fed, how any of it was, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's so many questions that aren't answered still, I think. And
You think
one
so?
day there'll be some crazy documentary about it and you'll hear all kinds of
Oh,
wacky
that's
shit.
what that one day is now. That's
Oh,
what I read
Jesus.
too, was that people were saying that it's more likely. I read an article to that it's more likely we're going to see one of, if not both of, two different documentaries that are being put together before Rust itself even comes out.
Oh,
That's
my
if it comes
God.
out, because as of 2 weeks ago, or like as of a week ago, it still didn't have a distributor. No one's bought it yet. So I don't know if it's like a hot potato now. It could just
Hmm.
be a big ass hot potato. Well, that's the thing though.
Someone's
That's
going
what
to
I
pick
wanted to
this
say.
up.
Well, that's what I wanted to say, is that it's got to be good. It has to be entertaining. Like, I mean, hello, Francis Ford Coppola, are you listening? Like, you know, if it were good, if it were any good, you wouldn't have had to pay for it yourself. Just like if it were any good, people would have snapped it up by now, and it's been on the. I guess it must be completed, or it's been
They wrapped.
available to
Yeah, no, they
buy.
wrapped.
It's
I don't know if
wrapped,
it's
and mhm.
completed in editing. I
Well,
don't know if it's
it was
full
being
yet.
shopped around. They said it as recently as Can of
Oh, you mean
23.
Coppola's?
No,
Oh,
Rust.
Rust.
Rust was
Rust
being
is
shopped
completed.
around. Yeah, it
Oh,
was
I didn't
saying
know
that
that.
Rust was
Okay.
being shopped around this past con and the con of 2023, the film festival. It was being shopped around, like it wasn't being shown, but it was being talked about and bandied about, and it was being pitched. And I mean, if it doesn't get purchased, picked up, and distributed, at least I would say it's just my estimation, before the end of the calendar year this year,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's gonna yeah, it definitely will end up like a direct to video midnight release
Yeah,
kind of
it
thing.
won't be
But
a day the clown cried. Like it'll definitely come out
Jesus
in
Christ.
some.
I
It'll
swear
come out in some
we
respects.
have to go see that when it comes out. It's gonna play
Oh
like at the
fuck
Library of
yeah,
Congress, I think.
yeah. I so bad want to see that. I don't know. I was reading something about that the other day. They're like, don't get your hopes up, even though it's allowed to come out. No one's going to pick it up to distribute it though.
No.
Which
Yeah,
I think
because
again is still I
you're
take
because
it.
so okay, let's think about this really quickly, right? So there, in my opinion, there's two movies that kind of fit that bill. One is or the Orson Welles one, The Other Side of the Wind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which took what, like 50 years to get picked up, right?
But that's because it was broke too, and it wasn't
Yeah.
finished though.
The
So there was
other
a
one
little bit
is
of yeah.
the one, I don't remember the director, but the one that not Johnny Depp, River Phoenix was working on when he died, right? He was working on this one called like Desert Noon or Desert Moon or some
Oh,
shit like
that's
that. The one
right.
with Judy
Yeah.
Davis. No good, kind of. It was a no good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be like, I don't know if Gus Van Sant was supposed to be involved, but the director ended up like, he held on to the footage for years and years, had to hobble together like you know, 40 minutes worth of a movie. And by this point, Judy Davis and all the other actors, there's only like a couple other actors, like a real sparse road movie, you know. And
Mm.
so it came out to nothing, you know. So it's like, this movie, I think Rust has a lot more resources at hand, because there's a few more stars in it, like Francis Fisher's in it, you know, and
Yeah.
there's some other stuff going, and it has buzz right now. But so far, I don't hear anybody saying like, "Oh my god, it's such a good movie, it's gonna get
It
snapped up."
might suck. I mean, look at The Crow. I mean, that was an awful killing, but like And
Yeah,
even though it was an accident
yeah.
from day one, when you talk to stunt guys about it, they all say the same thing. Though it still wasn't easily preventable.
The Crow.
Um, yeah, the Crow, and so again, that
Hmm.
was another mismanagement, and that poor
And then how
actor's
did
life.
Bruce Lee die?
Well, that's up for debate too, but mostly because he was on painkillers because of his back, and he took some aspirin when he flew across from California to Hong Kong, and he actually was cheating on his wife, so he was staying with this other girl. And when he got off the plane, because he was on painkillers for like years because he fucked his back up that he
Yeah,
hid from
yeah.
everybody. So then I guess he had a headache, took a nap. Anyways, there was like something happened with the pill mix or whatever, and I think it was like some type of brain aneurysm or something he died of.
Oh shit.
That's
Oh,
that's
I see. He took
probably
a,
what happened, but they're
you
always
know,
saying that he was murdered because he was teaching kung fu to Americans or
oh
some
shit.
bullshit,
No, you know what? There was a comedian the other day. I don't, it's hard to say. I never really heard of him before. This black guy, and he had a stroke, and I guess he like had been a comedian for a while. He's got like a Netflix special up, but he said the
Okay.
same thing. He said that he was flying and he took like a Viagra with alcohol while he was flying. Like he was flying from LA to New York or vice versa, and
Okay.
he took like something to affect his blood or the thinness of his blood. In other words, the aspirin, or like in this case, Viagra, it being like a different kind of blood, and So yeah, he took that and he had a stroke.
He's
And he
trying to
had
join
like a
that Mile High Club.
yeah, yeah, it's wild. I had no idea though about Bruce Lee, but anyway, but with the Crow though, the movie was good. That's the thing, and
You're right. The
that's what I was
movie
gonna
was really
say.
good. Yep.
It's sad that it's like we're talking about human life here for sure. We're talking about a lady
Sure.
who's but I think it's a trip how like it really comes down to if the movie's good or not. If the movie's good or
It's
not,
Hollywood, baby.
then yeah, it's either got to be good enough to watch more than once, or it's got to be so bad
But
that
do you
it's
think they would buy it because when we watch it, everyone wants to at least see it? Like, I got to see this
yeah,
turd, or I got to at least see this scene, or I want to see if
yeah.
it's. I mean, there's got to be. You're definitely going to watch it once. I would
And
absolutely.
oh yeah, for sure. I want to see it once. I want to see what, because this is like, like they never that midnight. What was the one with the girl that died? That Sarah. I remember Sarah, and it was like Midnight Rider. Is that what it
Oh
was?
yeah, yeah, Midnight Rider. Yeah,
The Allman Brothers, right?
yeah,
Wasn't it the
yeah,
Allman? Yeah. And that
yeah.
movie never came out, right? It was like it was
No,
scrapped on the
I did
minute
he go
that
to
that
jail
accident
for a
happened.
year?
Yeah, the
The director,
director did. A
yeah.
little while too. Yeah, he did a little
And
while.
again, I don't think he should have went to jail. I just don't.
I
I
don't
heard
remember the
that
details too
story.
much about that one. I just remember when it happened.
Yeah, and again, it was awful, and it was
Yeah.
careless. It was all that stuff. But again, when you're doing those indie film shoots, you gotta.
Yeah.
It is like a little mini war zone in a way,
They were,
and it
yeah,
sucks. I
they
felt
were
really
like on
bad when
a,
that girl died.
yeah, they were like on a live railroad track or something like that, right? That they thought
Yeah, they
was
were doing
not
like a dream
live. And
sequence, and William Hurt was on a bed, and then this train was coming, and I guess they
oh
thought the
shit, it
train
was
track was
William
dead.
Hurt.
Yeah, he was playing. It was Dwayne Allman's
Oh
story or
shit.
whatever. That's what it's called, Midnight Rider. So
The
he's a
Greg
dream
Allman story.
sequence. Yeah, it's a dream sequence on a railroad track. Train starts coming, so they move him out of the way. She's the AD, so she's on the bridge where the track is, but she's well off to the side.
Yeah.
And as it was coming, something clipped onto her and then just sucked her,
Oh,
got her
oh,
there. There's
not
video
good.
when that came out. There was video of it, not of like the actual crush
No.
of like, but her on there and the train. It was, oh my God. Again, awful, careless, wasn't done right. But when you don't have the right money to have the proper production
Yeah.
management, when people are just things fuck up. But then whose fault is that? It comes down to executive producers and producers. It's not
Yeah.
always the craftspeople.
Who cut the corner?
Yeah.
Who themselves cut the corner by even going with this young lady, or even and I don't, again, going back to the guy that says that, oh, they offered me the job. It's crazy how like that stuff ends up becoming evidence, as far as like, well, yeah, it wasn't like you didn't know any better. It wasn't like you didn't consult with somebody that told you
Yeah.
what you want to do takes 5 weeks of prep, and you're doing, in other words, there was like actual evidence for them to convict her at least. But you're right. It's like, well, who cut the corner? Was it Baldwin? And at the same time, come on, we know how those like actors who are executive producers or even producers, sometimes, most of the time, they're like they trust in the line producer, or they trust in the AD, or they trust in the director, and it's like, they'll maybe, well, they'll probably choose like a department head if they can, but like
Mm-hmm.
they choose who like does their hair and makeup and stuff like that. But I
they
can't
don't
see
skimp
Baldwin.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see Baldwin. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't see him, like, with like the green, tax advisor hat on, with the suspenders, like going line by line on the movie's budget and making sure every person I can't see him going through the HR files and making sure that they vetted everybody.
I mean,
like,
they had like six, I believe they had 6 million was their budget, right? So let me tell you that
that's enough
you
money to
have
get it
enough
right.
money somewhere. There's a little bit of greed going on. They always say if like the actual, like, you pay out all the craftspeople and everyone, if you have a proper crew, it's only like, in a low budget movie, like 500 grand, something like that, 600 grand. You get gunfire, maybe goes up to 1 million. So, I mean, there's what was Baldwin's paycheck? It's like, get the fuck out of here. Not again. I don't think anyone should go to jail, though. I guess that's my main thing. I just don't know. That's just, I mean, I don't know.
Like, to me too, especially because like they quote unquote finished the movie or whatever that looked like. In other words, the husband, right? The husband who represents the late cinematographer. Her name was Helena Hutchins.
Yeah.
And her widow, the guy, even though, like, it's funny to read the articles because he's like suing everybody still, but like they agree, even Alec Baldwin, like he's still suing Alec Baldwin personally or something like that, or he's suing them like as a production company. But like they still went ahead and finished the movie, and it was almost like,
isn't he an executive producer too?
He's an executive producer on it too, and it's almost like, okay, it's almost like no hard feelings, but I'm still gonna sue the fuck out of you, like.
Yeah,
that too is Hollywood, baby. That too, it's very like, oh, I'm sorry I had to do this, but I'm gonna sue you, and if you end up in jail, well, the movie was good, or let's finish what Helena would have wanted. It's like, damn,
I know.
So there is something to me about that. That's like, it must not be that hard to work through if. But I get it. She died for that in a lot of ways. So it's like, well, yeah, let's finish it for no other reason for her.
I do agree. Who wouldn't have want to finish it? Right. You kind of have to. Yeah.
Kind of have to, I mean, and that, so it's hard. It's hard to be like, oh, somebody should have gone to jail. Nobody, like, it's really hard because who cut the corner and
that Hannah girl's probably watching Baldwin get off the hook from prison, and she's like, that motherfucker, I was like, God, pissed. She's so pissed.
I think even more than that, because the fact of the matter is, it wasn't like she got convicted of first degree murder. She did get like, I think like second or third degree manslaughter, something to that effect.
Yeah, and she'll be out.
But
but it's still it's life affecting. I mean, she's going to be not even 30 years old, and she's a murderer, to some people, and she really isn't the one who. I mean,
meanwhile, Baldwin's got a Christmas movie coming up soon. That's so fucked up. That's so cynical.
I love it. What a fucking crazy.
He's got a Christmas movie and like a fucking reality show of some kind coming up too, I think, for him and his wife and his like 20 kids he has.
And that's the thing about this, when you're like the star in these type of scandals, after a little bit of time, it's like it never happened to you, and you're off being famous again, and everybody else has to eat it.
Remember when he was on voicemail screaming at his daughter, "Fuck you, fat little pig"? He was like,
I love that
fucking little pig. Can you put that as part of your the episode, like the outro or something?
Oh yeah,
you gotta have Baldwin's voicemail to his daughter, like, "You dirty little fucking pig." He called her a little piggy or something.
Jesus Christ! I will look and see if I can find that. That's great.
That's a good one. Yeah,
that is good.
Yeah, so R.I.P. Helena Hutchins. I hope the movie's good.
Absolutely.
For sure. I hope the movie's good, because otherwise, oh man.
Oh, what a waste. I know.
What a waste, for sure.
Hey, I want to tell you something, okay? And I want to leave a message for you right now, because again, it's 10:30 here in New York on a Wednesday, and once again, I've made an ass of myself trying to get to a phone to call you at a specific time. When the time comes for me to make the phone call, I stop whatever I'm doing, and I go and I make that phone call at 11 o'clock in the morning in New York, and if you don't pick up the phone, at 10 o'clock at night, and you don't even have that goddamn phone turned on. I want you to know something, okay? I'm tired of playing this game with you. I'm leaving this message with you to tell you, you have insulted me for the last time. You have insulted me. You don't have the brains or the decency as a human being. I don't give a damn years old, or that you're a child, or that your mother is a thoughtless pain in the ass who doesn't care about what you do as far as I'm concerned. You have humiliated me for the last time with this phone. And when I come out there next week, I'm going to fly out there for the day just to straighten you out on this issue. I'm going to let you know just how disappointed in you I am and how angry I am with you that you've done this to me again. You've made me feel like shit, and you've made me feel like a fool over and over and over again. And this crap you pull on me with this goddamn phone situation that you would never dream of doing to your mother, and you do it to me constantly and over again. I am going to get on a plane, and I'm going to come out there for the day, and I'm going to straighten your ass out when I see you. Do you understand me? I'm going to really make sure you get it. Then I'm going to get on a plane, I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to come home. So you better be ready Friday, the 20th, to meet with me. So I'm going to let you know just how I feel about what a rude little pig you really are. You are a rude, thoughtless little pig, okay?
To replay this